Hey, good morning, friends. Good morning, Yang. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, friends. Good morning, Cecile. It's some heavy air today. It is very humid for sure. Gonna hope you can hide out inside and some cool if you can. Good morning, Sharon. How are you? Deb Votrin, good morning. So glad you're here. Looking forward to our little soiree tonight. We have, if you don't know, I serve on the board of the United Way here in Fall River. Out there doing good deed doing folks, and their annual soiree is tonight. And Deb is our missions chair, and she's done. We've partnered with them over the last year with any number of different opportunities to help this community through both pandemic land and other things. So we're going to go and be a part of our gathering tonight. So that will be good fun. Good morning, Donna. Glad you're here. Good morning, everybody. All right. So glad each one of you are here. And welcome. It is this Wednesday on the 8th day of September 2021. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're a part of the 1111 journey, and I hope that you're having a good day. When I was a boy, I had a fixation on aircraft, and in fact, not just any old aircraft, but one particular aircraft that I loved. I made models of it. And that was the F4U Corsair, which was used in World War II and into the Korean War as a naval close air support fighter. And it was, if you ever saw the old show Baba Black Sheep, that was the plane that they flew. And I've had a chance to go to a few air shows and actually see one fly and hear them, and it was a great treat for me. But that was as an adult, but as a boy, I would make the models of them. And what's, providence is a funny thing, and the way that God works is a funny thing in our lives. And so, as time would come and would move on, I had the opportunity actually to meet a number of pilots a couple that stand out. One in particular that I had the chance to work with and be a part of when I was working in hospice, because those era of pilots were beginning to pass out of this were passing out of this world at that point, and so one I remember, Mr. Meady, a few others along the way that actually flew those aircraft, and to sit with them and to hear those stories of what it was to be in those aircraft, what it was to face war, and what it was to be a part of those conflicts in the past, and what it was to actually live a life on the other side of all of that. I remember one story that was told was that of when in North Korea, in the Korean War, the you know the that the Chinese, when they got involved with the war, would actually conscript an entire village, and they would take the whole village and they would basically give them rocks, and they would take the whole village would carry 2 or 3 rocks to the top of a mountain, and at the top of the mountain they would place a big pile of explosives, and then all of the villagers would be conscripted to carry rocks up and on top of the mountain to make a big pile of rocks. And then they would take the Chinese would at point of bayonet take the oldest of the men in the village and place them with the plunger and on top of the pile of rocks. And that, in the late 1940s, early 1950s, was the anti-aircraft defense of the Chinese against the American aviators that were flying those F-4U Corsairs through the valleys of Korea. And I remember him talking about looking out the window and seeing that little old man on top of the pile of rocks, and close enough so that he could actually see his face, and they looked at each other just before the little old man pulled the plunger, and all of those rocks flew into the air. He walked through his life with carrying that old man with him. And what I want to offer you, and I tell you that story to say that to just share a bit of my story and about what's going on this week. In that on Saturday, I am going to get the opportunity to honor another one of these veterans, Thomas J. Hoodner. Here he is a son of Fall River. Spent much of his life in this city. He died in 2017. And was the first Medal of Honor winner in the Korean War. Tom Hudner was not only a fixture around this city, but he was also awarded the Medal of Honor, not for more bombing strikes or anything, but for his attempt at saving his wingman who had crashed. I first heard this story when I read a book called Such Men as These by David Sears, which is an incredible book about those naval aviators that would fly those missions and their experience in their lives. And I never knew about him prior. That I first encountered him. That was years ago. But I got a call this week that I will be giving the invocation and benediction at the ceremony on this Saturday at noon at Heritage State Park, where they will be naming the Visitor Center after Tom Hudner as one of the great sons of the city and his service in the Korean War. I tell you that to tell you it is one of the great things. It is one of the simply incredible gifts that God has given me in this life, to be able to stand and honor people in this way. And whether it is a guy like Tom Hudner who had was recognized as with a moment of heroism, or whether it is simply walking home, the faithful within the ranks of our churches and Christendom, or whether it's the blessing of hearing these stories. I come to you humbled today because of the fact that I get to bear witness to these things and to honor these things in a formal way. But my invitation to you today is to honor them maybe in a is that you too also can hold up these commands, can hold up these beautiful things, can also bear witness to the stories that are around you, because that is all that if there's anything that I might do as pastor, or there is anything that I might do as comforter, or however you want to describe that which we do here in the ministry, it is largely hearing the stories of those who came before us and lifting them up as the sacred things that they are. What honors can you give today? What honors of the saints that have walked before you can you give? What noticing of the world and the beauty in it and the wonders and the hard things that people have encountered in the living of their days, the difficult and the ugly and the brutal moments that people have not only endured but have endured that they might bring the very best of things into this world, that they might hold fast to loving one another as best as they could figure it out in the worst of some situations. We try to honor these things in the wider world in formal ways, as Tom Hudner's name will go on the Heritage State Park Visitor Center, and that everybody who comes there will come to know at least his name, if not something of his story. What names do you know? What stories have you encountered? What people in your lives might you pray over? Might you give invocation and benediction to as they are lift up in ceremony and song, even though that ceremony might be nothing more than a cup of coffee with them, or or a phone call to them, or a simple prayer said for them. Friends, I am blessed. I am blessed with the role that I have. I am such a lucky man to be able to bear witness to the stories of the saints in this formal way, in this high way. But it is no different. It is no different than the invitation of every one of us to do every day, to bless our fellow pilgrims on the path, to notice their struggles and their overcomings, to hear and to validate all that they have encountered and seen and known. I hope I'm refraining from telling you the Tom Hudner's story because I'm going to post a couple of links in the chat when we're done. One link that I'm going to post is a story from the history guy who tells the story. It's about 15 minutes, so I hope you listen to it. And then after that is actually Tom Hudner himself telling the story of his day. And I hope you listen to them, and I hope you listen to them in that order. Because maybe you'll get the chance to bear witness to these men, such men as these. Because his wingman, by the way, because Tom Hudner was a guy who had every advantage. His dad was a owner of many grocery stores in town and warehouses. He came from an affluent family. Went to school, the same school George H.W. Bush went to. He was one of those high characters that inhabit the ether of the world. And Jesse Brown, his wingman, was the first African-American aviator a naval aviator in American history. They could not have been two different men, and yet they loved one another. And that, in fact, Hudner cared about him so much that he would risk his life innumerable times to try and save his wingman's life. In that old aircraft, that F4U Corsair, that I, as a little boy, used to put on a big breadboard and make with little pins so that all the angles and the decals would sit right and properly, so that they would look just as they did as they flew off of a carrier far away, or at least as I imagined they did in my imagination. Jesus' invitation to us and his great sermon. So there's many sermons Jesus gives, but I would submit to you the greatest sermon is the sermon that he gives before he goes to the cross. It is the sermon that we find in John. We don't find it anywhere else. It's not the Beatitudes, which are about how, we might move through this world, or we might be in kind of some sort of mystical blessing way, but it is simply our invitation to relationship with God and with each other. And in it he says this: as the Father loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this, so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. A greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Friends, I get the chance to honor people, and hopefully with some grace and with some ability, all the time. But that is all of our tasks, to lay down a little bit of our life, not in the heroic way, but that's great. I mean, we honor that, but to lay down our lives in the honoring and the noticing of each other's story, in the lifting up and the holding of one another in our struggles, in the caring and the being with each other, in all that this life throws at us, to validate, to bear witness, to journey with, to be fellow pilgrims on the path. And just as I got to years ago with Mr. Meady and hear his story of what it was to carry with him the hardness of war, and as I again get to honor Tom Hudner this week, it's my hope that you too will be about your master's business. Well, you too will be friends with those whom you look to, and that you can raise honor and blessing and goodness, that you might offer up in this world a witness to the sacred. It's all around you. It's in every person you encounter. It's in even the most difficult and hard and broken of people. My invitation for you, friends, is be about honoring this week. And if you're not doing anything on Saturday, come down to Heritage State Park and be a part of that ceremony for Tom Hudner. Be a part of that bearing witness in a formal way to one of these that we might lift up in beauty and in grace, and one of these sons of Fall River, one of such men as these. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. I hope I hope you have peace and grace with you I hope that joy is upon you, and I hope you to get to be about the task of honoring today. So good morning. Let's see who made it in. Hey, Derek, I am glad you're healing well. Very good. Oh, yes, so many prayers for you. Totally. Priscilla, good morning to you. Roselia, you made it. I'm so glad you're here. Amy, good morning to you. It is what time Saturday? It is noontime Saturday. I'll also post the link to the invitation as well in our chat. So, all right, friends, peace and grace to you, and we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.